I want to sort of move to our first speaker, Evan Dobelle, who's the president of Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. I think it is very apt that President Dobelle start the conversation today. When you think about the competitive assets and competitive advantages of central cities, to use Michael Porter's phrase, one of the first things you think about are those institutions, universities, hospitals, museums, that basically cannot leave, that are bound to the places in which they were developed. Yet in most American cities, these institutions remain walled off from the economic life and the social life of their cities. And we really have failed to leverage the economic potential of these institutions. Since becoming president of Trinity in late 1995, he has reached out to the corporate, civic, community, and political leadership of his city, and he has embarked on some of the most ambitious efforts to redevelop distressed neighborhoods in Hartford. He was a ready and willing partner in many of the HUD public housing redevelopment programs, and he is well prepared to play this role. Prior to becoming president of Trinity, he was mayor of Pittsfield. He served in the Massachusetts state government. He served in the Carter administration, and he was president and chancellor of the community college system in San Francisco. So with that, President Evan Dobelle of Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut.
It is a privilege to join you at this historic institution. For all these years, Brookings has been at the center of American public policy, bringing intellectual depth and the most rigorous analytical standards to the issues of foreign and domestic policy. Within this past month, America's colleges and universities have graduated thousands of young men and women who will inherit and shape the 21st century. To be at a college or university during commencement is to be drawn again to one's own youth. The sense of unbounded potential, the complete absence of cynicism, the belief that problems can be solved and that hopes can be fulfilled. As president of Trinity, a liberal arts college, commencement season reminded me in powerful ways of the responsibility that we hold as institutions of higher learning. We are the stewards of a tradition that celebrates learning for its own sake, a tradition that hands to each ensuing generation the accrued wisdom of ages past. But worthy stewardship of the liberal arts tradition demands more than fidelity to what has come before us. It requires us to inspire our graduates to something more profound than self-satisfaction with knowledge acquired, degrees achieved, jobs secured. True stewardship of the liberal arts requires us to draw our students to a higher ethical and moral plane. It requires us to build on the potential of youthful minds, to inspire an informed awareness of what it is to be a citizen of the world, of what one individual owes to another, of what one person can achieve, and of what one community can build. True stewardship of the liberal arts tradition requires us to go beyond the simple engagement of ideas and to set knowledge at the service of humanity. It is not enough simply to find truth. We must use truth to improve the human condition. Such has been the standard of citizenship since the time of the Greeks, and such must be our mandate in the century that awaits us. We must send our students forth to apply the lessons they have learned to the service of their world. The fact of the matter is that as one looks across the nation, very few colleges are doing enough to meet this test of stewardship. We are coasting on our past, coasting on our endowments, coasting on a self-congratulatory sense that the pageantry of commencement is in itself enough to sustain us into the new millennium. Nothing could be further from the truth. America's colleges and universities have had it very good for a very long time. In the years after World War II, we all sailed on the plentiful seas of the GI Bill. In the 1960s, we were flush with research dollars and federal largesse. Even now, most of our institutions have enjoyed endowment growth, somewhere in the range of 15% since the start of 1998. And of course, we have all continued to find the rationale for raising our tuitions by percentages that are almost 2 times the rate of inflation. American higher education stands at its moment of reckoning. Within the first decade of the 21st century, we will see a fundamental change in the state of higher learning in this country. The easy days are coming to an end. And to paraphrase Walter Lippmann, we can no longer divert this reality by forgetting it. I assure you that we who lead America's colleges and universities can no longer take for granted that the government and our students will continue to accept cavalier annual tuition increases of up to 5.5%. And I assure you that we cannot continue to sit atop cumulative endowments that approximate $150 billion and continue to argue that we should not pay taxes and at the same time state by our inaction that we cannot be burdened by duty to city and to state and to nation. We must define a new leadership for higher education, and that leadership must combine vision and a sense of time urgency and a willingness to take risk and a capacity to move multiple constituencies. At Trinity College in Hartford, we are taking a different course. Trinity is investing in its city $6 million to date, embracing our city, making a commitment to provide leadership and vision and a forum for debate, to work in partnership with the city's leaders and other institutions committed to improving the quality of life in our community. The college does not wish to be an island within its city, nor an ivory tower with walls so high they are impossible for our neighbors to scale. We intend to draw our neighbors in and not drive them away. Trinity is spearheading a comprehensive neighborhood revitalization initiative for the community surrounding our campus in the heart of Hartford. The initiative links neighborhood groups in a truly unprecedented collaboration to create a safe, viable neighborhood, which is also a central hub of educational, health, family support, and economic development activities. Our approach to revitalization starts by creating an infrastructure for local families that draws on the community resources and institutions already there. Its goal is to encourage stable home ownership, neighborhood economic development, and ultimately to generate jobs through research and through commercial and retail developments linked to the neighborhood initiative. We have put together a package of public and private initiatives that will invest close to $200 million in the neighborhood, including approximately $100 million in new construction. It's a plan that includes 3 new schools, new home ownership, a new science and technology center, recreational, cultural, and support facilities for the city's children, families, and communities, and significant retail and business incubation opportunities. The vision reflects a holistic approach to the neighborhood which seeks to renew the neighborhood from within. And from day one, from moment one, in fact, we have emphasized citizenship in order to help the residents of our community feel empowered. No solutions have been imposed on them from without. The solutions have emerged from within the community through collaboration marked by common agendas, a sense of common purpose, mutual respect, and shared commitment to success. For more than 2 years, we have lived together and walked the streets together. We promised each other that we would not let our neighborhood die, and we would not recuse ourselves to the easy but unproductive path of despair and self-pity or bitterness in the face of common challenges. Instead, we dedicated ourselves to shaping our own destiny, focusing on our strengths and assets, and not on our weaknesses and liabilities. Our initiative stands today as eloquent testimony to what a true public-private partnership can be and what it can do. Last July, the Governor of Connecticut, the Mayor of Hartford, the Superintendent of Schools, corporate leaders, the nonprofit institutions that are Trinity's partner in the neighborhood, and most importantly, the residents of our Frog Hollow neighborhood of Hartford, gathered to break ground on the Learning Corridor, which 2 years ago was an abandoned, environmentally contaminated bus garage site, home to every imaginable stereotypical pathology of harsh urban life. Today, it is the centerpiece of our neighborhood renewal plan. Today, on that reclaimed parcel of land, we are constructing 3 new schools, a Montessori public elementary school, a public middle school, and a science, math, and technology high school resource center, joined with a performing arts academy. And just across the street, a new building already has been constructed. It is the first ever campus-based Boys and Girls Club in America. and I'm proud that General Colin Powell will join us on Thursday representing the Boys and Girls Club of America to dedicate this new facility. The club, which is funded by a partnership of Trinity alumni and Hartford-based corporations and private foundations, will be staffed by and tutoring to neighborhood youth, and who will in the process learn precious lessons about the realities of life in contemporary America. The neighborhood initiative also includes a family resource center funded by the Aetna Corporation and focused on programs that will assist parents not only with daycare needs, but also with critical matters of family health and the pressures of child rearing. Beyond this infrastructure for families and children, we are now implementing with Fannie Mae and local partners a housing strategy that emphasizes home ownership, fiercely resists the traditional urge to gentrify by creating a moat with incentives for our staff and faculty to move to the neighborhood, forcing the poor once more to relocate near the railroad tracks, near the highways, near the industrial zones. It is not right, it is not fair, and for higher education, it is not defensible. Trinity's role in this neighborhood revitalization effort has been as a champion of change and as a catalyst for action. Our strategy reflects an extraordinary partnership among major health and educational institutions, the public and private sector, city, state, and federal government, community, neighborhood groups that share a stake in the future of this area and are committed to its revitalization. We have assumed leadership of this effort because it is vital to Trinity's future that our neighborhood turn itself around. We have also done so because it is the right thing to do. It would be morally bankrupt for Trinity to teach the liberal arts on our campus and ignore what is happening across the street. How can we call our students to leadership if we lack the courage and vision to lead? How can we speak of the pursuit of truth if we turn our back on truth that is our neighborhood? And how can we encourage individual responsibility if we as an institution behave irresponsibly? We have an obligation to Hartford, and we intend to honor it. And quite frankly, every college and university in America has that same obligation to the cities and towns that they thrive in. Our commitment to community renewal and social responsibility is not at odds with our fundamental educational mission. In fact, the two are closely aligned and they're complementary. Our efforts beyond campus are supported and indeed bolstered by a new educational strategy that will tie Trinity students to Hartford and to other great cities of the world. Just last week, this strategy received unequivocal affirmation by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, which awarded Trinity a $5 million grant in order to support the plans to build college community connections that not only emphasize civic responsibility, but will hardwire a neighborhood where the technology gap widens every day between the rich and the poor, widens even greater among technology. Last month, our board endorsed a new academic vision for the college, built around the belief that a liberal arts college in a capital city has a unique opportunity and a special responsibility. At the heart of our academic strategy is our relationship to Hartford, proud of the connections to a great and historic city that now stands on the verge of renaissance, moving aggressively to build academic linkages to our own city and to cities around the world, so that Trinity graduates will understand the realities of not only one American city, but also at least one other great city of the world. Every student who graduates from Trinity will have experienced life in Hartford, either through an academic internship or through volunteer service. Be it an internship in the legislature, in a corporate office, or in a hospice, be it through volunteering in a school or a shelter or a Habitat for Humanity project, our students will be in the city, reaching beyond the sheltered walls of the campus and making a difference in the community. They will graduate with liberally educated minds, but with a sense of responsibility to the place in which they live. Beyond Hartford, every Trinity student will have the opportunity to study in a great city of the world. We currently operate a very successful campus in Rome, Italy. Last year, we purchased a campus site in San Francisco. This year, we have opened sites in Cape Town, South Africa. And within the next 5 years, we will open 10 additional learning sites in cities as diverse as Dublin and Barcelona, Santiago, Beijing, San Juan, Istanbul, Jerusalem, New Delhi, Buenos Aires, and Cairo. These sites will be linked technologically, allowing students to share their experiences via cyber seminars and to be able to do academic internships in community service in Hartford and in cities throughout the world. To build and sustain a community of learning in cities across the nation, we need more than simple renewal of derelict neighborhood housing. We must build a community whose environment inspires children from their earliest days to hope, to learn, and to care. A community that encourages home ownership, one that nourishes entrepreneurial spirit and the work ethic, and that offers parents the tools and support so necessary to the vital act of child rearing, and a community that respects education as the tool for personal advancement. The time has come for fresh ideas. As a nation committed to the quest for a civic culture that honors diversity, responsibility, and achievement, we are obliged to open a new chapter in the struggle to revitalize our cities. The Brookings Center on Urban and Metropolitan Policy suggests that in confronting this challenge, we be guided by 4 defining principles. The first principle is that cities matter as places where the issues that define our future of our nation are played out. The second is that cities and suburbs are inextricably linked, and therefore that we must develop policies that strengthen rather than divide metropolitan areas. The third principle is that the private sector matters, and engagement of the private sector is critical to the task of building strong cities and metropolitan communities. And the fourth principle is that ideas and solutions should come from the ground up, from communities themselves. This morning, I'd like to suggest a fifth principle, and it's simply this: that the nonprofit sector, and particularly institutions of higher learning, matter too. The process of building communities and rebuilding cities in America could, and I argue should, be marked by substantial effort and assistance from a quarter that has not always stepped forward in times like these. It seems to me that the time has come to awaken the conscience and assert the moral authority of academic institutions. We have an obligation to look beyond our gates, to come down from the ivory tower. We are privileged communities of learning. We also belong to a much larger community that extends beyond our campuses. Today, I would call upon my colleagues in higher education to set a standard of commitment to the rights and privileges of citizenship, and to stand as beacons to all the citizens of this great nation, reminding us through their example that in responsibility, in service to society, to community, that there is fulfillment. Those of us who lead institutions and cities, those of us who preside over institutions with sizable endowments, have an obligation to invest in building community and rebuilding its cities. And our role must be spelled out clearly. Our leadership and our efforts will grow out of our identity and our mission. We will act in the best traditions of American education, as conveners, as the wellsprings of new idea, as a relentless voice for truth. I have spent my whole professional life in public office and in higher education, and I believe we are reaching a watershed moment. Colleges like Trinity and Hartford are vital because they are the repositories of civic values, ideals, and aspirations. And without these, our society will drift further into chaos and unbridled self-seeking. We in higher education must do our part not to allow this to continue, and we must begin in our own neighborhood, block by block. We must restore the capacity of America to dream great dreams. We must recommit ourselves to challenging society's most basic assumptions, and we must rededicate ourselves to the task of community building.